It's the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, brought to you by 90 Min, and we are live. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
What a game. What a game. What a day. I'm emotionally exhausted. I've got mixed feelings about it, which makes the game even harder to process. It makes the game even more difficult to analyze because the angle at which you're going to sort of go at it is not clear. Because on the one hand, Arsenal were abysmal for 35 minutes. And then on the other hand, you saw this fight, this character, this spirit that, quite frankly, we didn't think they had it in them. And, they did it against Benfica and you go, well, it was a one-off. And then they show the character, the spirit, the grit and the determination to turn around another game. Now, in an ideal world, Arsenal would have taken 3 points today. In an ideal world, we'd have closed the gap on West Ham United to 4 points. But we don't live in an ideal world. But we can close the gap on Liverpool in 6th position if we beat them in our next Premier League game. I don't often agree with Paul Merson. I think Paul Merson, as much as he was a great footballer, talks a lot of nonsense when he's on Sky. I feel like Paul Merson sometimes says things to try and get a reaction out of people. I feel like he's too keen to provide the soundbite. But what he said today that I actually agreed with was that was Arsenal season in a nutshell in 90 minutes. And I thought he was absolutely right. Disastrous defending at times, switching off, mentally not there, but also at points showing a grit, showing a determination and controlling games of football. So I'm not even really sure what direction to go with on this podcast. I didn't do this one immediately after the game. I've left it a couple of hours purposely, actually, because I wanted to try and provide as calm a view as I possibly could. But I guess a good place to start would be to start with Mikel Arteta's team selection. He started with Bernd Leno in goal. He went with a back four of Callum Chambers, perhaps surprisingly, alongside David Luiz and Pablo Mari. Kieran Tierney continued at left back. Xhaka and Partey were the midfield duo. Martin Odegaard played ahead of them. On the right-hand side, it was Bukayo Saka. On the other side, it was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And up top was Alexander Lacazette. Of course, there's a need for rotation at this moment in time, right? We played in Europe on Thursday. We've played a lot of games lately. Mikel Arteta keeps making that point. There are players who we think are fit, we think are available, and then we get to match days and we get, I guess, kind of surprises, don't we? For example, Hector Bellerin not being involved in the squad at all today. So there are obviously issues behind the scenes with injuries, with fitness that we as fans, we're not always 100% aware of. And I think we have to be mindful of that when we sit and criticize individuals for their performances, when we criticize Mikel Arteta's team selections. There's so much to process and there's so much information that ultimately as supporters, we are not privy to. And I think we've got to understand that. Didn't have any major issues with the team selection, if I'm honest. And Alexander Lacazette came out after the game and really summed it up, didn't he? He said that we didn't respect the manager's game plan. So I find it hard to put the blame at Mikel Arteta's door. Now, inevitably, when a team don't win a football match, the manager is the first person to come under criticism. And to a degree, that's right. He is ultimately responsible for the performances. He is ultimately responsible for the results. During the watch-along, I mentioned the word fatigue a couple of times. I talked about the fact that it was difficult for Arsenal in comparison to West Ham because of the fact that West Ham had a whole week's run up to this one. And Arsenal had played in Europe and they travelled to Greece the week before. And then they had the North London derby on the Sunday and then the second leg against the Greeks. And I was kind of, I'm not going to say using it as an excuse, but as a bit of I had a bit of an understanding as to why Arsenal weren't maybe at the races today for the whole game. And I based it on fatigue. The issue is here that for me, when I think about it, fatigue shouldn't kick in, until later on in the game. There's no excuse when you start a game as if your head's not in it. And that's exactly what Arsenal did today. And we'll start off with West Ham's goals. Of course, West Ham racing into a 3-goal lead inside 35 minutes. A fully deserved 3-goal lead, by the way. And the first goal came from some work down the left-hand side. The ball was cut back to Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard took a touch and the ball just bounced up really nicely for him. And he's caught the shot in such a way that it is always bending away from Bernd Leno as he dives. I don't blame Bernd Leno for that. I think it was a really, really good finish from Jesse Lingard. And West Ham, quite frankly, deserved it at the time because they were the first to every ball. As Mikel Arteta said after the match, they won every duel. They won all the second balls. They were quicker off the mark. They were sharper. They were physically stronger. Mentally, they were more switched on. They were more alert. Essentially, West Ham were just better than Arsenal in every single department in the early stages of that game. Second goal comes from the quick free kick. And I actually, I made a bit of a thing about the quick free kick during the watch along. And a lot of people in the chat, and fair enough, were saying, I don't really think it's a big deal. I think Arsenal have got to defend that better. Arsenal have got to be more alert, more aware. But I've watched it back again. And what I will tell you is that John Moss is not aware of West Ham taking that free kick quickly. If you watch it back again, John Moss is looking elsewhere. He's not aware of West Ham doing that. He's not aware of it and waved play on. He's not even, he's not even looking. He doesn't know what's going on there, John Moss. And all of a sudden, before you know it, bang, bang, the ball's in the back of the net. And John Moss, I think, bottles pulling that back. Because for me, you can't take a quick free kick without the referee's acknowledgement, I don't think. You also can't take a quick free kick 7-8 yards away from where the offence occurred. So, for me, there was just so many things wrong with that. Add to that the defending was shoddy. All the Arsenal players switched off. The ball took a slight deflection off of Pablo Mari and it beat Bernd Leno at his near post. I'll come on to talk about Bernd Leno in a minute, but what really frustrated me about that goal more than anything was that having conceded a goal off the back of a quick free kick that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been allowed. I think the goal shouldn't have stood. That's my personal view. But when it does go in, if I was an Arsenal player, I think all of the Arsenal players have to be surrounding the referee and putting pressure on him. What the hell was that? Put pressure on John Moss. Because for me, he's had an absolute mare there. He does not know what has gone on there. John Moss is dealing with something else. He's looking this way and the free kick is taken over here. He looks up, the ball's in the back of the net. He hasn't seen it. He's shit scared. He doesn't know what to do and he hasn't got the bollocks to basically disallow the goal and say that goal shouldn't stand. So first of all, the referee's not aware of it. Second of all, the free kick is not taken in the right position, nowhere near the right position, which is another issue I had. Arsenal were switched off. Fine. It's not excusable. I'm not sitting here making excuses. I think at that level, you always have to be alert. You always have to be on it. You always have to be aware of your surroundings, what might happen. You always have to be on your toes, sharp, etc., etc. Bernd Leno probably should do better at his near post. I know it takes a slight deflection, but for me, as a goalkeeper, you should very rarely be beaten there, and it wasn't a special effort. The goal goes in. All of a sudden, it's West Ham 2, Arsenal 0. And look, Graham says, Harry, you've lost it here. We fell asleep. They scored. Move on. But Graham, how many times? And this is what I will say to people. How many times did Thierry Henry take a quick free kick from the edge of the box, find the back of the net, and the referee blew up and disallowed the goal? There were times where it was allowed to stand, and Thierry Henry became notorious for that. But there were times Thierry Henry and other players in years gone by have taken free kicks quickly without the referee paying attention. They've ended up in the back of the net and the referee's gone, sorry, disallowed. I'm not making something up. This is the basics of football. You know, referees sometimes do allow quick free kicks, but they have to be alert. They have to be aware of what's going on. And you can watch that back 100 times and nobody will come to me and say, or I think if you watch it back again closely and if you pay particular attention to John Moss, there is no way that anybody can make a strong argument that says John Moss was aware of that free kick being taken and allowed it to play on and allowed it to happen. He doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a Scooby. Watch it back and have a look at John Moss and see that. And look, I'll go back to the point, right? It's not acceptable from an Arsenal perspective. I'm not defending the actions of the players. I've said it myself. They should be more alert. They should be aware of what's going on. They should react quicker. Archangel in the chat says, stand on the ball, Sunday League stuff. Agreed. Completely agree. It's not defending Arsenal. I just think that we're a little bit unfortunate in the sense that, in my personal opinion, John Moss has absolutely no idea what has gone on there. And by the time he realizes that the free kick's been taken, the ball's in the back of the net, and he hasn't seen enough to be able to make a decision. It's poor refereeing for me. Graham says, I think it's the wrong focus. Concentrate on Arsenal. I've given my criticism of Arsenal and the way they dealt with it. And that stands. That is obviously relevant. But I just feel a little bit hard done by that, because John Moss is not in control of the situation whatsoever. But we move on from that and we talk about the third goal, and it's a cross. I think it was from Vladimir Kufal that comes in, or I think Kufal's cross was blocked. It came someone else. The ball anyway goes into the box. Mikel Antonio, very powerful physical figure, heads the ball down, and Thomas Souček turns it in. And you're kind of sitting there going, initially I thought that might have been offside, and I had a little bit of hope that maybe the VAR was going to rule it out. But upon reflection, Thomas Souček was certainly onside. And all of a sudden, Arsenal are 3-0 down, shell-shocked, little over half an hour on the clock. And you're sitting here going, my God, we are in serious, serious trouble here. People started blaming the manager. People start talking about the team selection. People start talking about the fact that Mikel Arteta probably needs to go now, the fact that they're fed up of him. And all of a sudden, you get this response from the Arsenal players. Now, that response suggests to me that the reason we struggled in that first 30, 35 minutes was not down to the setup. It's not down to the selection. The fact that we dominated pretty much most of the game after that first half an hour tells you that wasn't the case. It's a lack of application. It's players going on the pitch half asleep. And somebody said earlier on in the chat, and I've lost the comment because it scrolled up, that Arsenal were notoriously slow starters and David Moyes would have taken advantage of that. David Moyes, make no mistake about it, would have done his homework on Arsenal and would have encouraged his players to go full pelt from the very start. And that's exactly what they did, and they caught us off guard and they took advantage of the opportunities that came their way. But after that first half an hour, there was a response. And for that, you have to give the players credit. It doesn't take away from the fact that we were abysmal in the first half an hour. It doesn't take away from the fact that we switched off in key moments. It doesn't take away from the fact that we should never have been 3-0 down in the first place. But you can, if you're taking positives from today's game, take some encouragement from the fact that even at 3-0 down, we never gave up. We worked hard and we got ourselves back in the game. And we probably were a little bit unlucky not to have won it. Now, West Ham had chances after their third goal as well. Mikel Antonio hitting the post from, a yard or two out. Declan Rice forcing a save out of Bern Leno. So West Ham had chances as well. I said during the watch along, I'd have taken a point before kickoff. I talked about the fact that getting 3 would have been absolutely huge today in our chase for a top 6 position. But I'd have taken a point because West Ham, quite frankly, in the Premier League this season, have been a much better side than us. We were away from home. We were jaded off the back of a couple of European games with a North London derby sandwiched in between. It's been a difficult run for Arsenal. There have been players who have been playing who haven't been at 100%. So a draw would have been a respectable result. And I'm quite pleased tonight because you're taking a respectable result off the back of, a really spirited comeback. Now, Mikel Arteta talked about the fact that he was very concerned by what he saw in that first half an hour, that it was unacceptable. And I absolutely love that from Mikel Arteta because he's saying it as it is. And that's the truth. It was that bad in the first half an hour. And, when I'm sitting here talking about the quick free kick, which in my opinion shouldn't have stood, when I'm talking about fatigue, when I'm talking about a lack of fitness, when I'm talking about all of those things, the fact that we had to travel to Greece and then had a North London derby and then the return leg against Olympiacos and now a trip to West Ham, who are a very good side. It's not me deflecting from the fact that that first half an hour was very bad. It's me trying to give a balanced view and a balanced assessment of what we saw today. I find it weird that a team who should in theory be suffering from all of those things managed to muster the energy to come up with a comeback like that, having gone 3 goals down. But that is a testament to the really, really good spirit and the really, clear fight that this Arsenal side have under Mikel Arteta. And you could say whatever you want about him. You can say that tactically you don't think he's quite right. You could say that he's still learning. You could argue that certain players shouldn't have played today. You can argue that certain players played in the wrong position. I get all of that. But I just think that as Arsenal fans, we should learn from what happened in that first half an hour, but we should also be really pleased with the way we rallied and the way we fought back. And I celebrated that equalising goal like mad because I realised that it wasn't just getting a point at West Ham. It was a statement. To come back from 3 goals down against anybody in any competition, in any setting, is a statement. It's a statement that this side mentally have the capacity to come back from even the most adverse conditions. Now, you could argue the flip side of that is that mentally from the start of the game, we're not at the races and that's a big problem and we need to do something about that. And I agree, but I'm trying to take the positives out of what was a very, very stressful afternoon. There was a lot of chat during the watch along about Mikel Arteta. There's a lot of you that are regulars in the chat and you have a different opinion to me on Mikel Arteta, and that's absolutely fine. That, you don't want him in charge. You think it's time he moved on. And a lot of the blame was being pointed at Mikel Arteta off the back of that first half an hour. And Alexander Lacazette has come out himself after the game and said that the players didn't respect Mikel Arteta's game plans. The players didn't apply what Mikel Arteta was asking from them. And at that point, I think it's really difficult to then still beat the Mikel Arteta drum, to still sit there and say that he's to blame for the way we started the game today. It's come straight out of the player's mouth that he had set them up in a way where they had what they needed to go and perform to a far better level than what they did in that first half an hour. And unfortunately, they were unable to apply it. They were not switched on. They were not up for it. And I think that in situations like that, it's very easy to say, bad result, bad performance, manager's responsible. But I think over the years, if you've been watching football long enough, you could think of many examples whereby players have let a manager down. And in that first half an hour, those Arsenal players absolutely did let Mikel Arteta down. Got the point. Let's move on. Want to talk about some of the individual performances because I thought there were some really, really good ones today. I want to start off by giving a shout out to Callum Chambers. I thought he was absolutely sensational today. Callum Chambers or Cafu, which one was it today? bombing up and down that right-hand side, but also putting in some really good balls into the penalty area, created Alexander Lacazette's goal. I can't believe that's been given as an own goal, by the way. I felt that was really harsh. And then, of course, went up the right-hand side and put another delicious cross in that Craig Dawson turned into his own net, which brought Arsenal back to 3-2. I thought Callum Chambers gave such a good account of himself that, you know, you can start looking at him and saying, well, if he's not going to be a starter every single week, this is someone who is a very useful squad player. Callum Chambers can play at centre-back. You know, you could argue that he could play in defensive midfield. He could play at right back, as he proved today. So I like the idea of Callum Chambers sticking around. I like the idea of Callum Chambers being part of the squad. I'm not sure that Cedric couldn't have gone forward and been as effective. I think we've seen that Cedric can be. But it's nice to have an alternative option. And Mikel Arteta talked about the fact that we needed some height. Some height in the back line as well. Just going back to that Laka goal where I said, the first one where it was given as an own goal, he says, Laka's shot was going wide, Harry. It was going wide, Graham, but I've seen other shots like that have, it wasn't going outrageously wide, like to the corner flag. I've seen other ones of that kind of ilk given as the player's goal. It's a deflection at the end of the day, rather than an own goal. I think that people are too quick to give own goals nowadays. I think if you do what Craig Dawson did and volley the ball into the back of your own net, I think that is an own goal. I think though, in that instance where you have had a shot at goal and it's taken a kind deflection in, I think that should be given to the striker. But maybe I'm talking because I was a striker. Maybe I'm talking from the Strikers Union. But yeah, brought it back to 3-2. Callum Chambers pivotal in that. But as good as Callum Chambers was, I still think the best player on the park by a country mile was Martin Ødegaard. The guy was sensational. He was at the heart of everything we did. He passes the ball brilliantly. He played some brilliant passes. And I go back to that second Arsenal goal, the own goal from Dawson. And that comes off the back of Ødegaard picking up the ball, looking as though he's going to go inside and then just completely wrong-footing everyone by playing this wonderful reverse pass back across to Callum Chambers to put that cross in. I thought Martin Ødegaard was sensational today. And it was really difficult against a team like West Ham, who through the core are so solid. You're talking about a West Ham United side with two very good defensive midfielders, two very good midfielders who can sit there and protect when needs be in Declan Rice and Thomas Souček. And then you're talking about a solid central defensive pairing as well of Craig Dawson and Issa Diop. So for Martin Ødegaard to not get lost in that, for Martin Ødegaard to still be able to dictate things from a central position, and it wasn't a case necessarily of him always going to either flank to try and get on the ball. He had a lot of joy, Martin Ødegaard, in the central positions, and that is a testament to what a silky, as Harry says in the chat, what a silky, talented, technical and clever player we have on our hands. And Arsenal, you have got to sign this guy. You have got to break the bank in the summer to get Martin Ødegaard on a permanent deal. It's got to be done. For me, looking at our team right now, that has got to be one of, if not the priority signing. There's no risk there. We already know that Martin Ødegaard, I'm not going to say there's no risk because there's a risk in every transfer, but we already know Martin Ødegaard's at home at Arsenal. We already know he can perform in the Premier League. We already know he's at this level. I adore the guy. I think he is sensational. And we really, really do have to do whatever it takes. If that means the Kroenkes putting their hands in their pocket, if that means a restructuring of finance like we did to get Thomas Partey over the line, then Arsenal absolutely have to do that, because I think he's unreal. And I'm going to bring you another podcast tomorrow where I'm going to look at the game in a more analytical sense. I'm going to look at the game with some screenshots to explain my points. You pull out the tactics board like we always do the day after a game. So I'll be bringing you that tomorrow as well. And I'll highlight Martin Ødegaard's performance and the technical aspects of why I thought it was so good. But for me, he's just brilliant. Really, really like him. And fingers crossed we can get that deal over the line. I thought Alexander Lacazette had a good game today as well. As I've already touched on, I felt he was unfortunate not to be given that first goal. I thought he took obviously the equalising goal brilliantly. Wonderful cross, by the way, that from Nicolas Pepe to pick him out on his weaker right foot as well. And a lot of the time we've sat there and gone, when it comes to Nicolas Pepe, this guy's so one-footed is a problem. But I thought he did wonderfully well to pick out. And he was off balance as well. Wonderful cross to the far post. Lacazette powers the header in. And there you go. Arsenal 3-3. And Lacazette's link-up play, his ability to drop into those deeper positions, played some wonderful balls around the corner a couple of times as well. Slipped Bukayo Saka in on more than one occasion today, and Bukayo Saka was unable to convert. He looked a little bit out of sorts to me today. I felt like he was rushed back. Didn't really work out. A lot of people have talked about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang off the back of this game, and I want to touch on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang before I come to your questions, because I was, again, really disappointed by him. When he started on the right, he offered us absolutely nothing. I can remember him getting back and making one sliding challenge in the first half, and that was probably the highlight of his game. I thought that he gave the ball away stupidly in certain situations. He impacts our build-up play in a negative way. We know that he's a goal threat. We know he carries that. And Mikel Arteta, for me, actually showed balls by subbing him off at a time when Arsenal was still chasing a goal. But when you look at it later on and you stay away from the fact, or you try and block out the point that he is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, that he is the club's captain, if you put that all to one side, I actually thought that that he should have probably come off 10, 15 minutes earlier. And that says a lot about the way Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's playing at the moment. You know, yes, he scored a few goals recently, but I don't know where he fits into this system. And I wrote a piece on it last week for 90 Min, and I got quite a bit of stick on social media because I said, maybe it's time Arsenal start thinking about life after Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Maybe if a decent offer was to come across the table in the summer, it would be the right time to let him go, to move him on. And I got criticism for it, but it's for a number of reasons. I've been really disappointed by his attitude lately. I've been really disappointed by, obviously, what happened ahead of the North London derby. I've been really disappointed by some other incidents that occurred earlier in the season. Add all of that together, plus the fact that I don't really know where he fits in this team. He doesn't drop off like Lacazette does, and help in the build-up play. He can't really run in behind against the low block. He's poor in the build-up, and I just think that, you know, it's it might be time to start thinking about trying to make some money back on him and moving him on. We're going to have to see how that pans out, but that's genuinely how I feel right now about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Graham Sutherland says, Harry, you may have missed Carragher say that the most Oba did in the game was his celebration after our third goal when he was walking back to the dugout. Completely agree. Get your questions in the live chat, and I'm going to come to those now. I realise that you guys have been putting them in, and I know I've missed them because I've been rambling on for half an hour or so about the game. But drop them in the chat now and I'll come to those. Just a quick reminder that this podcast is kindly sponsored by the brilliant people over at manscaped.com. So I want to thank them for their continued support of the show. And if you haven't done so already, head over to manscaped.com, enter our discount code, which is 90min20, and you'll get 20% off as well as free shipping. So if your nether regions are in need of a makeover, are in need of some upkeep, are in need of some maintenance, then head over to Manscaped. And you can get 20% off, of course, as well as free shipping. So do check that out, and our thanks to them again. Get the questions in. There's one other point I want to touch on, and that was the substitution of Granit Xhaka. I think it was Thomas in there. Where is it? Just trying to find it. I think Thomas said something about. He said, on the positive note, the moment Xhaka was subbed, we went to 4-1-4-1 and it worked. Is the time now to play more expansive attacking football and we squeeze them complete domination? I actually slightly disagree, Thomas. I thought that when Granit Xhaka went off, we lost. I thought we lost. I thought we lost some control in the middle of the park. I thought that we allowed West Ham actually to get more of a stronghold in the game again after he went off. And Arsene Wenger used to do this, and it used to irritate me, where we'd be chasing a goal and he'd just go, I don't need a midfield anymore. I just need as many attackers on the pitch as I can possibly have. And I actually think that that harms you because you don't control the game as much. Therefore, you don't get on the ball as much, and you're susceptible to counter attacks, and the fact that some of those players won't be in the right positions to defend. And I just think that it actually weakened us making that substitution. I get that Xhaka might have been running on empty. You know, he's played a hell of a lot of football lately, more than anybody else in this Arsenal side. But I slightly disagree with you there. I thought actually that weakened us, but I also appreciate that he probably needed to get off. Bajwa Mickey says, Harry, I think it's time to drop Leno. I think that I think you can ask questions about Bernd Leno on that second goal. I don't think the blame is entirely with him. I think the whole team switched off. But there have been enough moments over the course of the season to make people doubt Bernd Leno. But there have also been enough moments over the course of the season where he's dug us out of a hole with a wonderful save. So it's a little bit difficult here. The problem is you drop him and who do you bring in? Matt Ryan. Is Matt Ryan really at the level that we're looking for? I would argue that he's a decent backup goalkeeper because of his wealth of experience, but that's about it. So I probably wouldn't drop Bernd Leno, but I do find with Bernd Leno, he goes through phases. So he might go 6, 7, 8 games playing really well, and then 6, 7, 8 games where he makes questionable decisions. He does this, he does that, and you start to worry about him again. I'm not sure I would drop him just because I don't think the alternative options that we have at the club are particularly good enough to step in and fill those shoes. Omar says, why do you think we always concede stupid early goals every game? Is it the manager's tactics or the players themselves? It can't be tactical, can it? I mean, what would Mikel Arteta possibly say in his team talk that causes the players to be asleep for the first, 10, 15 minutes of every game? It's got to be application. It's got to be, a lack of focus. Now, you could argue that it's the manager's job to motivate those players before they walk out onto the pitch. And I would agree with that. And I think he has to hold some responsibility for it. But I don't think it's a tactical thing. I think the players have to take the blame for that. I really do. Just on the Aubameyang thing, Harry says, moving him on. H, come on, he's still got it in his locker. He'll turn it around. I'm not saying that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang overnight became a shit footballer. I don't want it to be taken that way because it's not what I'm saying. I guess ever since the season began, I have struggled to understand where he fits. And even more so since Christmas, when Arsenal have reverted to this 4-2-3-1, I can't quite work out whether I want to see him play through the middle or whether I want to see him play from the left. There's been times where he's played from the left and it's worked to good effect. And there's been times where he's played through the middle and it's worked to good effect. But there's also been times from either side where he's not done it. And the reality is with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, I don't think we were wrong to give him a new contract, right? I think that had to be done regardless. If not to play him every week or to have him as the future of our club for the next 2 or 3 seasons, then at least to protect the asset. But by the time the next season starts, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is going to be 32 years old. And I think if somebody came in the summer and said, here's £30 million, I think I would sell him. I really do. Because if you're going to stick with Mikel Arteta, then I don't think he's necessarily the right fit for what it is that we're trying to do. Again, I want to reiterate the point. I'm not slagging him off or saying that he's shit or saying that he's lost it. Of course, Aubameyang will still score goals. And even in a season where people are talking about him having his worst campaign in an Arsenal shirt, we're still talking about a player who's got 14 goals in 31 games. So it's not me failing to acknowledge the qualities that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has or the qualities sorry, it's not me failing to acknowledge what a good goal scorer Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is. It's me just questioning whether we'd be better served looking at someone who fits the profile of the team a little bit more. And I know there'll be lots of people that disagree with that, and that's absolutely fair enough. But that's just kind of where I stand on it right now. There've been too many games this season where I've looked at him and felt he was a passenger. Big hello to Tizel. He says, great comeback today. Really happy about the second half performance. We need a few more ballers in our squad. You can see the system and football Arteta wants to play. We just don't have the players at the minute. I agree with that. Matt G says, who do you think is the fans' favourite current player? Do you think it's based on attitude, for example, Tierney, or performance, for example, Saka? I think someone like Kieran Tierney gives you both. I think he gives you the performance level, and I think he gives you the attitude, and I think that's probably why many people right now would have him down as their favourite. My personal favourite is, you know what? I don't even know. There's a few I like at the moment. I like Granit Xhaka, as you lot will know. I like Martin Odegaard's my favourite at the moment. That's the answer. Martin Odegaard for me. Let's keep moving down the comments. And again, apologies if I miss some of them. I will miss some of them because the chat is constantly updating. But let's see what you guys are saying. Gianfranco says, what do you think of Partey today? I think he improved, not at the top of his game yet, though. I thought he was quite dominant after that first half an hour. I thought in the first half an hour, actually, he was one of Arsenal's worst players. I thought he was giving the ball away. He was caught out of position. He was struggling to handle the physicality of Thomas Souček in particular when those two went head to head. So I thought he improved as the game went on, as did everybody else. It's not to dig out Thomas Partey in particular, but I thought he looked fitter today. And I thought that leaving him out from the start in the second leg against Olympiacos was the right call. And I think we saw the benefit of that because he lasted longer today and he was at a higher level for right up until the end of the game. So, yeah, definitely an improvement today for sure. What else have we got here? Nishith says, off topic, but do you think West Ham fans and maybe Villa fans as well are getting a little too ambitious to go to Europe? Their squad depth really showed today. Yeah, I think a lot of those clubs don't have the depth. If they're fortunate with injuries and things go their way, they can often put runs together like the runs they're putting together now. Villa have dropped off a little bit. Obviously, they've got games in hand, but they've dropped off. And I think that if West Ham finish in the top 6, that'll still be a wonderful season for them. If they finish in the top 7, I still think it'll be a wonderful season when you consider David Moyes was brought in to help them avoid the drop. What else have we got here? Big hello to Matt Tomo, who says, first time I've made it to a live episode. Hope you're well, mate, and welcome. You know what? This is a good time because I haven't done it yet. Get smashing that like button. It really, really does help. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. There's over 250 of you watching us right now across the multiple platforms. We've only got 65 likes on YouTube, though. So make sure you smash that like button. Let's get it up to 100 as quick as possible. Subscribe. And if you're interested in becoming a member and supporting me to bring you more content, then make sure you click on the link in the description and at least check out the tiers of membership that are available. One of the perks is that you get to join our fantastic Discord server, in which all the members are respectfully discussing Arsenal all day long. I absolutely love it. The conversation is quality. I don't always get to respond on time to some of the conversations, but I do always scroll back and have a read through, and there's some really good discussion about so many topics in there. Fantastic little community. So if you're interested in becoming a part of that, then please do click on the link in the description and come and join us. Thank you, Matt. Let's move on. What else have we got here? Matt says, how much do you think we could have sold Oba for last summer instead of him signing to a new deal? Not a lot, mate. Not a lot at all, because he only had 1 year left on his contract. I'd have been surprised if we got 20 million for him at that point. And that's why it was imperative that Arsenal did sign him on a contract, whether that be, as I say, to maybe sell him before that period ends, or to just or to keep him for the duration of it. Whatever the answer is to that question, whatever you think is the right way to go about it. What I will say is that when you're talking about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Arsenal were absolutely 100% right to give him that contract. Brad Richardson says, do you know much about the new European competition next season? I've got to be honest, I haven't paid a great deal of attention to it, but what it is it's a third European competition. The Europa League is slightly changing. Instead of 48 teams in the group stage, that is going to be 32, and the rest of those teams are going to fill the Europa Conference League. Don't know much about it. I did read something about the format of it a few weeks ago, but if I'm completely honest, I can't remember the ins and outs of it. So I don't want to sit here and tell you something that's wrong, but I'm sure with a quick Google search, Brad, you'll be able to find out about the format. Wesbird says, Harry, why does Arteta keep changing our back four? I know you have to rotate to freshen things up, but it's frustrating. Yeah, I agree. And it always seems to be the only two constants at the moment three constants are Bernd Leno, Kieran Tierney, and David Luiz. And then there's rotation. And I like Pablo Mari, but I do think that for the longer term future, Gabriel is the one, right? Gabriel is the first choice left centre back. I think Gabriel was probably rested today because we have seen him struggle since COVID. We have seen some up and down performances from him, but I think we're starting to see the best of him again. I personally would have played him today, given that there is an international break coming now, and Arsenal don't play again until the 4th of April. So because of that, I'd have given him a run out today. But, I talked about it earlier on in the show. We don't know exactly what the situation is with regards to players' fitness. We don't know whether there's a greater risk of injury, whether the medical team have identified something, whether the player is feeling fatigued. There's so much, that has to be taken into consideration. What else have we got here? Let's pick out some more comments. Ekene says, Harry, you don't read my comments. Is it because I sometimes go against you? Mate, I recognize your name so much because I do read out your comments actually on other streams. If I've missed one today, I apologize, but I've missed loads of people's comments because the chat is always updating. There's no intention, my friend, to ignore your comments. I can assure you that. And loads of people in the chat go against me, mate. It's you're allowed to. This is not a dictatorship. But yeah, no, I'm not missing your comments out on purpose. I don't think I've seen one from you in the chat today. But as I say, the chat is always updating. If you've got a question to ask, if you've got something that you want to say, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll keep an eye out for it. But no, there's nothing here, and the fact that I know your name means that I've read a lot of your comments out in the past. So. I'm definitely not ignoring them. What else have we got here? Tazelle says, remember when I said a couple of months ago, Arteta is trying to keep or get the value of players higher by rotating the squad. I think we're seeing this now. It's an interesting point. What else have we got here? Eli says, great show, Harry. Martinelli has to start against Liverpool. I think a lot of people were disappointed with Aubameyang today, weren't there? And the calls for Martinelli to come into the side are just going to get louder and louder off the back of that. Inter Yanan says, Harry, how long will it take before this fake process goes bang, getting bored of being mid-table 2 seasons in a row? First of all, it's very difficult. And I think I said something similar to you on the watch along earlier. It's very difficult to pin last season's finish on Mikel Arteta, considering he didn't take over till after Christmas. Or just before Christmas, around the Christmas time anyway. I think it's very difficult to pin that blame on him. I think that if Arsenal, I accept that Arsenal aren't where they need to be in terms of their Premier League position right now. I think we can all agree with it. There's no getting away from that fact. I think that Arsenal need to be in a stronger position. It's as simple as that. But you have to realise he hasn't even had a full season in charge yet. You can't say 2 seasons in a row when he's managed half of one season and 3/4 of the second season. That's not 2 seasons, is it, for Mikel Arteta? Add to that all the other shit he's had to deal with, like COVID, and the fact that he hasn't had a pre-season, and the fact that he had 3 months where he couldn't actually train with his team, where he was doing bloody things on Zoom calls. There's so many factors that you have to take into account here. I think Arsenal are starting to play better now. Overall, in general, I know we have moments. We have our moments. We didn't play well against Olympiacos in the second leg. We didn't play well in the first half an hour today. I completely accept that. And I'm the first person that said, that actually, if we don't finish this season with success, i.e. winning the Europa League or scraping our way into the top 6, then I would be one of the first people to be turning up the pressure on Mikel Arteta next season. But we all knew what this season was going to be about. The Premier League in general has been an absolute joke. Teams have struggled. Teams like West Ham have benefited from the fact that we're in a pandemic for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is they don't have that toxic home crowd of theirs at the London Stadium who are waiting to complain and moan and whinge about every single thing that goes against them. And if it's not about the team, it's about the stadium and the layout of it and the fact that they're owners of this and that. So I think that there are a lot of strange performances in terms of the Premier League. Look at Liverpool. Look how Liverpool have dropped off. So yeah, it's been a really difficult season for everybody for many reasons. That's not me saying that I accept the position we're in. It's just me being willing to give him a little bit more time. And some people will pressure him, some people won't. But what I will always say is you can voice your opinions, and we should voice our opinions, and that's absolutely fine. But ultimately, by sitting there and winding yourself up about Mikel Arteta, the only person suffering is you, because the club are going to give Mikel Arteta time. And that is out of our hands. That is out of our control. So why not try and see the positives? Why not try and get on board with it? That's how I look at it. But of course, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Matt says King Harry. Love that. Thank you, guys. Said Abdullah said, did you see the Kieran Tierney interview? He said some interesting things. Yeah, I have seen that. And he talks glowingly about Mikel Arteta. So if you all love Kieran Tierney, then trust in what he's saying, because he's got a lot of praise for Mikel Arteta. Called him a football genius. Maybe that's a little bit strong, but check out that interview. It's really, really interesting. Kieran Tierney talking about how Mikel Arteta's tactically developed him and has got him looking at football in a very different way. Big hello to Rohan, who's a Chelsea fan. He says, Chelsea fan here. Definitely the most balanced Arsenal fan out there. Keep up the good work on here and 90 Min. Thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate your kind words. What else have we got here? Lots of you praising David Moyes for the job he has done. Isaac says you have to praise David Moyes, though, for where he was at with United and West Ham. Now West Ham are in a European spot. Completely agree. I've always rated David Moyes as a manager. I think he took the Man United job at a difficult time, was never going to fill the shoes of Alex Ferguson. And from then on, it's been a really difficult road for him. But a part of me is delighted to see David Moyes actually doing a good job and getting the credit he deserves, because he's a good manager in my book. Not necessarily my cup of tea in terms of style, but you can't deny that he's a good manager. What else have we got here? I'm going to pick out 2 more questions. Marble Halls TV, going back to the Arteta thing, says, but then Mikel is in his first ever job, so why have faith in the process? It's a really good question. Granted, there is no previous to go by, but you shouldn't look at managers and say just because there isn't any previous, they can't be doing the job right. Otherwise, nobody would ever make that transition into being a manager if we were to look at things like that. I mean, prime example is Pep Guardiola, right? Comes through at Barcelona. Granted, had some wonderful players there. He's gone on to probably will finish his career as one of the most successful managers of all time. Barcelona took an absolute punt on him because he had no previous managerial experience. And he done brilliantly. You know, have you not in your job felt that you're deserving of an opportunity for a promotion? Your boss could turn around and say, but you've got no track record of doing that job. You've got no track record of leadership. So why should I give you a chance? But if nobody ever gave anybody a chance, things would never move. So I get why people are skeptical. The league position is not good enough. There have been performances this season that have been cause for concern. Completely accept that and acknowledge that. The first half an hour of today was a cause for concern. But as I always say, you have to look that little bit deeper when it comes to Mikel Arteta. You have to scratch beyond the surface to pull out the positives. And some might argue that the fact that you have to do that means that the process isn't working. But I don't think football is as simple as some fans make it out to be. I think there is a lot going on behind the scenes. I think there has been from the day Mikel Arteta took over. I think the club, in terms of stability, haven't operated in the right way for a number of reasons. Haven't always had the right people in the right positions. I think there's a lot to contend with at Arsenal. And I'm willing to look, this process might not work. Yeah, we all have to accept the possibility that the process might not work. The process might fail. When Mikel Arteta talks about it going bang, maybe it'll go boom and it'll all fall apart. But what I will say is, whether you believe in a process or not, a season and a half, or not even a season and a half, a season and a quarter, because you're talking about 3/4 of this season and, half of last season, a quarter and a half of a season in the middle of a global pandemic. You have to add that point in as well. That's not enough for any process to work. That's not enough for any process to actually truly work. Whether it's Mikel Arteta's process, whether it's Carlo Ancelotti's process, if you haven't got hundreds of millions of pounds to throw at transfers and bring in the players that you specifically want, then no process works. And that's the reality of it. So I think we have to give it a bit more time, regardless of how you feel about it. It's something that is going to take time. And I know we don't have time at the top level in football. Managers rarely get time, but the club are going to give him time. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But what I will say is, look, let's get this season done. If we can nick something, great. If we can win the Europa League, fantastic. European trophy, Champions League qualification. If we can't, though, then the pressure's on next season. People sit there and they go, oh, but, if Mikel Arteta wins the Europa League, he'll be papering over cracks. Really? Do people actually see it like that? Because I see it like we'd have won 2 trophies in 2 seasons. And look at Tottenham. Look how desperate they are for a trophy. They've even gone as far as appointing the Antichrist of football in Jose Mourinho. And they're willing to put up with all the damage and all the destruction that he's going to leave behind him just so they can get their hands on a piece of silverware. I don't know. I really don't know. This debate could go on all day. It could go on. It could go on all night. Thomas says, Harry, would you do a video with tactical analysis of our game prior to and after the Xhaka sub? Do you know what, Thomas? I'm going to write that down, and I will, because I was thinking about what to make a members video on. I'm going to be doing some extra ones this week as well. With it being an international break, got some time to step back a little bit and really focus in on the content here. So looking forward to getting my teeth stuck into that. And yeah, I'll definitely write that down and make a note of it. Thank you for the suggestion. Right. Gonna leave it there. We've been rambling on for about 55 minutes or so. What a day. An emotional roller coaster of the game. As I said, mixed feelings about it. Probably felt like we should have won it. Disappointed we didn't win it. But given that we were 3-0 down inside 35 minutes, you have to take the draw, and you have to be pretty pleased with the draw. I'll be back tomorrow with some more Arsenal content, and I'll be looking at the game in a slightly more analytical way after the dust has settled, as I always say. So looking forward to that one. Come and join me at midday on Monday for that. Midday, 12:30, somewhere around there. I'll let you know tomorrow. But yeah, looking forward to that, and I will catch you all soon. Thank you to every single one of you for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you smash the like button on your way out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we'll be back very, very soon with more. Until then, ciao.
listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.